This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon and welcome everybody to the Saturday Sunset Safari. We are sitting at Djuma Private Game Reserve, which is part of the 3.5 million hectare Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. My name is James Henry. David is on camera.
Hello.
There we are. And on the other vehicle, we've got Lauren and Owen, and up at Ngala, I think we've got Nikki and Marcello. Please do talk to us for the first 45 minutes. If you are between the ages of 0 and 18, you can use the email kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. That's kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. If you are between the ages of, say, 0 and, I don't know, probably 2.5, you may need to ask your parents to help you send that email. And if you're a little older than that, well, you can probably do it yourself. And then after that, we'll open it up to the floor, as it were. We used to say we'll now have the adult drive, but that had connotations that we didn't really like. Let's go across those beautiful Ngalas that are floating through a sea of grass like some small boats. See, they look like little boats. They don't actually look anything like boats, but one is minded slightly of boats. Sky, I don't think zebras without stripes exist, no. You'll find that some zebras have got very bright stripes, or very obvious stripes, and some zebras have got more stripes than other zebras, but no zebra that I know of has absolutely no stripes whatsoever. There was a zebra in the Maribor the other day, and that's in East Africa, in Kenya, that had spots on him. He did have stripes as well, but he also had some funny spots. But I don't think there are any zebras that are born without stripes. I suppose if an albino zebra was to be born, and I don't know of any records of albino zebras, then maybe they wouldn't have stripes. Albino means that there is just no color at all in the skin, no pigment, and so you'd probably find that they were pure white. Now that fence behind that you can see is the fence of Djuma, and the camp is called Vuyatela. And guests can come there, not right now of course, because of lockdown, but eventually they'll come back. Now we're going to go back up to Ngala, which is living up to his name. Ngala, of course, is the Shangaan word for lion, and so they are going to show you, eh?
Good afternoon to all the kids. I'm Nikki here at andBeyond Ngala, and behind us with the camera is Marcel, and we on our way to a water hole. We just found this subadult male lion. So this is one that's normally with that pride with the white lines, but I think he has been pushed out. The pride was seen this morning here. We haven't seen any of the other individuals around, and so therefore I think maybe those males, the bigger males, have pushed him off, and now he's all by himself under this tree. It is pretty warm. So we thought, like, we won't spend too much time with him, but it'll be interesting to see what he's up to, and if he might even get up and probably move into the shade. The sunlight is slowly creeping in on him. You'll see around his ears and on his belly and around his front feet how the sun is coming through. So eventually he'll probably get up and start moving deeper into the shade, but very, very relaxed. Richard, you were asking a very good question, which animal sleeps for the longest and for how long do they sleep? If I can think off the top of my head, I would probably say lions are one of the ones that sleep for the longest. If this male wants to, he will probably be able to sleep close to 20, 21 hours in a day. So imagine that, only moving for 3 hours, 4 hours, and then sleeping for the rest of the time. It changes. Sometimes he can be awake for much longer. But if he has a full belly, he's drank some water, he's in a nice, cozy spot, there's no need for him to move, then he'll probably stay there for probably 20, or sleep for 20 hours a day. Any of the other animals, like off the top of my head, I can't think of one. No, because most of the animals, they can go for quite long periods without good sleep. But I would say for lions, probably off the top of my head, would be those that sleep for the longest. Jade, 9 years old, you were asking a good question. Do we have any meerkats on andBeyond Ngala? And the answer is no. They occur in the central part of South Africa and more west, so more the areas that are very dry, very sandy areas. If I can ask myself just to show on this map here, so hopefully I'll be able to give you show you the map. So if we look at this map right over here, so this is South Africa. The borders run over here. This is Botswana, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique right over here. So the meerkats, you'll probably start finding them from, you see the central part, there's a place called Bloemfontein. So that's the capital city of a province called the Free State. So from there on, all the way up in the westerly direction, so into Botswana, parts of Botswana, into Namibia, those are the areas that you would find the meerkats in. But on this side right over here, you find them. It's not ideal conditions for them. You can see this male is pretty relaxed, and just looking at his belly, it does look like he had quite a bit of food, maybe from the day before. I remember the other day when everyone went out with Roan, I think they were on a blue wildebeest carcass, and so I think his belly's pretty full. What he's doing now, he's just resting up. It is warm, and for him, it's all about just conserving as much energy as he can. So when he does start moving, it will probably be to follow the pride, or maybe into a bit more shade. But for now, let's head across to James with the little grebe's nest.
We've got the little grebe's nest there, which we've been keeping up with over the last little while. 4 little eggies in the nest, and they've been left uncovered, and I'm not sure why. The grebes themselves are over on the sort of far right-hand side there of the dam, and they are playing next to a little group of water thickneys and a starling. I think it's playing. I mean, they seem to be having a bit of a bath and a swim. Maybe they're foraging or hunting. And what we discovered this morning is that there are in fact 3 grebes here. 2 of those little ones, or those adult ones, they're not little ones, and then a youngster, a juvenile, that is quite possibly, I suspect, their youngster from the last clutch they raised. So there are actually 3 little grebes here, and then some Egyptian gooses just behind them. Logan, the last time I saw a crocodile, you won't believe it. We had the most amazing sighting, and it was probably at the end of February, and I was driving around here in the morning, and we actually found a crocodile outside the water. And you know what the crocodile was doing? It was trying to steal meat from a leopard that had killed something. We don't know what it was. So what had happened was the leopard had killed something, the hyenas had chased it, and it had gone up a tree, got into the tree, and the branch actually broke onto the ground, and the hyenas were there, and somehow, I don't know when it happened, the crocodile got off or climbed out the water and went to where the commotion was going on, and there he was off the road, and the hyenas were thinking about trying to eat him. But they were too scared of getting anywhere near his mouth, so they left him alone, and eventually he made his way back into this water. I don't think he's still here. I haven't seen him for a long time. I also, unfortunately, think that our stick-playing hippopotamus seems to have departed. I can't see him anywhere. You've got an ibis, a hadeda. There we go. David has found a hadeda ibis. And And as Louise says, it's got the most beautiful bird call in the bush. She is, of course, deaf. Tone deaf, I mean. It has a bird call that many of you who live in the cities of Johannesburg will recognize as something that disturbs your Sunday afternoon, or indeed your Sunday morning. If you're over the age of 18, perhaps you've woken up on a Saturday morning or Sunday morning with a headache brought upon by slight overindulgence to the tones of that hardy-dar going, "Ha! Ha!" in your bedroom window. I imagine you probably feel like I do about that bird and its call. So kids, you know when your folks wake up after their birthdays feeling a little rough, it's because of that bird. I'm afraid I missed that question, Louise. You'll have to give it to me again. I was waffling. Oh, Uban, age 4, if that nest floods, then they'll be in big trouble. But it's floating. So I think even if the dam was to rise, then the nest wouldn't sink, you know, it would just keep floating up. And if it rained very heavily, and it has rained quite heavily over the last little while, then I suspect what would happen is that the parents would just come and sit on the eggs, and then it would be fine. So they're perfectly capable of dealing with the rain. Now we are going to go across to Lauren for the first time this afternoon. She is in the western sector of Djuma.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome on board. It's great to have you with us all, and it's not an all-male drive. There's a girl here too. My name is Lauren. I do have Owen on camera, and yes, we spontaneously decided to go west. I told James I was going to go south, but I just decided this is our western boundary, and we've not checked it in a few days, so there could be things we've missed. Being out here on safari is all about gathering the clues, putting the pieces together. It's not easy. It's not that the animals have any sort of tracking device or GPS device that we can follow. We've got to put the pieces together. And since no one has checked this road, this is a property, this is a western side of life. A lot of our characters, lions and leopards, cross in from here. So it's always worth checking. I sadly don't have an animal to show you right at this very moment, but I just want to quickly check this boundary line in case we're missing any signs of anybody crossing over. Sometimes you've got to do the groundwork before you get results. Nega, you're 14 from India, my dream destination. I used to live in Maldives for 8 years, which is really not too far away from India. And I should have went, but I didn't. You're asking, are we near camp? Yes, no matter where you go on this reserve, really, it's a small reserve. You're always near camp. Our camp is quite central, and it's only 1,200 hectares, so we're always near camp. And do any of the animals come in? Yes, they do. We have a very wild camp. There's an electric fence going around to keep the elephants out. It would be disastrous if the elephants came into our camp. But otherwise, yes, we have had leopards, lions. We have had our Khokamoya pride, who is a pride of lions I introduced you to not so long ago, although you've not met the whole pride, the new viewers. But they're a long-standing pride of ours, and they hunted a buffalo near our camp, and they ended up chasing the buffalo into our camp, and they were running behind it. So yes, that was wild. The animals do come in, but don't worry, we're all trained. We've got the necessary safety measures in place, but we do live out here in the wild, and that's why we have to be trained to be out here in the wild. So yes, lots of animals come into our camp, especially the hyenas. I have to say, the Djuma clan sometimes join us for dinner. There was one evening we all sit at a long table and eat dinner together. We're a family after all, whether we like it or not. And there was an extra head all of a sudden at the bottom of the table, so we all turned around. There was a hyena waiting on his plate being served. Yes, I know. So I am going to find some animals now. I'm going to quickly race down this western boundary, and as I do that, it appears that Nikki has already found you an elephant.
So we just left that lion. He wasn't doing too much, only to go back a little bit later to see if he might start getting up and moving. But like not even a kilometer from where we left that lion, we found this big elephant bull. I actually said to myself, I thought it was one of the biggest elephant bulls I've seen, just by the angle at which we approached. But having another look, he might not be as big as I thought. There is a little gap in front of us. And what I'm hoping to, if everyone just bear with me, or the kids, what I want to do is just move slightly forward. And there is a gap that we might be able to have a better glimpse of this elephant. So just hold on as I move slightly forward. It's not going to take too long, and there's a big gap, and hopefully we can see this elephant through this opening. Here we go. I can see him slightly better. Sky, 4 years old, you ask a very good question. How can an elephant make a trumpeting sound? So mainly that trumpeting sound comes out from their trunk. So it's just the angle at which they can contract those muscles, and then when they blow through their nostrils or through the trunk, they actually able to have like quite a high pitched sound that comes out of it. So you'll hear often with an elephant, even when he blows his nose, it goes like, but then whenever he trumpets, it goes like, but that all comes out of that trunk. Often when they communicate, you might hear this low stomach grumbling like a, and that's when the females often communicate, especially with herds. You hear that quite often. But the males, if they do see any potential danger, so let's say, for example, if there was that lion that we saw earlier, if that elephant saw the lion, he might just like pick up his trunk, walk close to him, go like in order to try and chase that lion away. But you can see, like, today it is a pretty warm day, and look at how he's just flapping his ears to try and keep himself cool. Jack, age 6 from United Kingdom, you're asking a very good question. How big do elephants get? And how long do they live for? So first, let's start off with how long they live for. So this male, like, let's use him as an example to try and see how big elephants can get. So if you look at him, based on his tusks, his shoulder height, he's probably, like, if I measure him, he's probably close to around about 3.5 meters, maybe 4 meters to the shoulder height. So a big bull can still be almost a meter taller than he is, and he'll probably weigh close to 5, maybe 5.5 tons. And I would say a massive bull can weigh past 8 tons. I remember like reading an article a while ago that I think one of the biggest elephants ever recorded was way above 8 tons. But that's just to give you a size. So in regard to that, I mean, he's a pretty decent size. I would probably say also, like, in terms of his age, probably around 35 years old, just judging by his size and tusks. Marcel, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, the biggest bull was just under 12 tons.
Oh, Marcel reckons the one that he heard was one of the biggest bulls was just under 12 tons.
Only 3.96 meter shoulder height.
I just noticed on the top of this elephant, there's quite a bit of leaves, and I can just imagine that's probably from him, like, moving out of a really dense area, and as he was moving through, probably some of the leaves, like, dropped onto his back, and he might eventually head to a warthog. But for now, let's head across to James with the giraffe.
There is a giraffe, and he is eating, interestingly, from, if I'm not mistaken, a tamboti tree. Now, no. Is it? Ah, no, there are 2 trees there intertwined with each other. And I think he is. He's eating from the tamboti tree. Now, tamboti tree is supposed to be very toxic. And it is very toxic to human beings. I've seen them eat it once or twice before, but this guy is particularly enthusiastic about it. Now, we're often getting asked about whether or not animals self-medicate. Do they know when they're sick that there are certain plants that have compounds in them that could help with whatever ailment happens to be troubling them? And the answer is almost always, well, we don't really know. Now he's moved on to another tree. Now he's not eating tambuti. But maybe there's an element of them being able to self-medicate. So I can see at least two kinds of trees there. There is a gardenia, and there is the tambuti. And it looks a little bit like there's a scotia tree or a boerbean, a dwarf boerbean, but I think I'm actually just seeing branches of the gardenia. No, I think there is one. Fascinating. Anyway, I think that's quite nice. Also interesting is that he's standing on a big slope. Now, a giraffe is very vulnerable on a big slope. Sebastian and Saul, yes, a giraffe can jump. I mean, I don't think they're ever going to win the FEI championship of show jumping, but they can certainly jump. Any animal that can run can jump. And there's only animal that can't run. There's only one animal that can't run on land, obviously. Very difficult for fish to run, for example. And that is the elephant. The elephant is unable to run. It just walks very fast, and it walks very fast. So it can't jump. But if that animal, that giraffe that you're looking at there, breaks into a canter, it leaves the ground, basically. Every stride, its whole body leaves the ground very briefly. It's the same as when you run. You're actually just jumping from foot to foot. And so, yes, it can jump. But as I say, unlikely to win any show jumping competitions. Yes, Zach, I'd say the kick of a giraffe is stronger than that of a zebra, simply by virtue of the fact that the giraffe is much bigger. A zebra, a big male zebra weighs about 350 kilograms. A big male giraffe weighs about 1,400 kilograms. So a big giraffe weighs 1,000 kilograms more. That's 1 ton more than a big zebra. So they can kick much harder, and they can kick with front feet and back feet. A zebra normally just kicks with the back feet. The other powerful weapon a zebra has, which a lot of people don't realize, is their teeth. They are very happy to bite. They'll bite readily. And I don't know if any of you have been bitten by a horse. I have been bitten by a horse many times, and it is very unpleasant. They have extremely powerful teeth. Right, let's go back to Nikki with his elephant. We are going to continue towards the eastern corner of Djuma.
I'm just having a look at this male elephant, and I just want to see if he turns. I thought earlier on, Marcel said like we could smell something, and I wonder if he might not be on musth. So that's often, so musth is literally when an elephant like this like has quite a lot of, or builds up like testosterone up to 6 times the normal level, and because of that they tend to be a lot more aggressive and a lot more agitated with things around them. But I just want to have a look, like if you, so I don't know if you'll be able to have a look at the eye, but just behind the eye, I thought I might have seen a little secretion. So just behind the elephant's eye, can everyone see it? Looks like water, like dripping down on the side of his head. There we go, now he's coming along. So often when elephants go into a period of musth, especially with the bulls, you'll start seeing a secretion from that gland called the temporal gland. Just have a look at how he's enjoying just picking the grass. It's so interesting, like the whole time we were sitting here, first he started off with the trees, and now he's like picking some grass, and you'll just see how he selectively uses that trunk, almost like a hand, to wrap around the grass. Sometimes he'll kick it out with his front feet and then put it into his mouth. Tyler 6 from Scotland, you were asking a really good question in regards to if there's any particular tree that the elephants love to eat. There's quite a few, actually, like this time of the year, and there's a blue wildebeest just behind the elephant. But so this time of the year, they push down quite a few trees to get to the roots. Now, some of the trees that they do push down might be, if we do see some, I'll point them out, but it's something called a red bush willow. There's a few monkey oranges, marula trees as well. And what they do, why they push it over for the roots, is so when we start going into winter, of course, a lot of the trees store their nutrients in the roots. And the elephant can't always get to that, so he can definitely get a few of the leaves, but not always the roots. So what he'll do is he'll push over the tree to expose those roots, and then he'll use that trunk, wrap around the root, and then break it off, and then put that into his mouth. But I would say probably those are going to be the main trees that he'll be focusing on. And if we do see a red bush willow, I'll definitely point it out to you. But I think the reason why is in this area here. So if you look at the whole habitat, and I mean, look how beautiful the clouds are and the grass and that. So this area, the grass is really sweet, and I think that's what attracted this elephant here. But for now, let's leave him be. He's moving off into a denser area. Let's head across to Lauren with the leopard.
I knew the West was worth checking out, everyone. I found Khokamoya, our resident male leopard who pops in from the west. He has the western side of the Djuma territory. He is a magnificent leopard, Tingana's enemy. We don't get to see him all the time. And here we have him, Khokamoya. He's quite an unusual looking leopard, because he only has one functioning eye. So we're just following him very, very carefully right now. And then once we see which way he's going to go, we'll try and get up ahead of him so that we can show you his beautiful face rather than his backside. Ah, Hook. This is the second time I've seen Hook in a week. You're 4 years old and you are asking which animal is stronger, leopard, lion or cheetah. Definitely lion, I'm afraid. They're okay, Hook, don't you dare think about going that way, my boy. Hello, handsome. You are just too handsome. I can't handle it. Lion. Lions are the tallest of the three, although cheetahs are taller than leopards. He's scent marking here. You see that? He's rubbing his cheeks. You see, his right eye doesn't function. We used to know Hook when he had two functioning eyes, but sadly one got damaged. We don't quite know how or why. But yes, lions are much heavier. They've got much more muscle. Both lionesses and male lions are stronger than a leopard and a cheetah. Lionesses are big. When you have a lioness standing next to your car, you realize the size of them. Oh, Khokamoya, you are not going to do that. You're on television. Oh, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I don't think he realizes that he's on TV. Oh, isn't he so lovely? I hope he crosses into our property, and then we can spend a little bit more time with him. Okay, just going to follow a little bit on. It's amazing. We really don't get to see Hook that often, and all of a sudden, we've got him again. So I'm going to do my very best to follow my gorgeous one-eye leopard, but we're going to send you guys across to James with some elephants.
Here we have got a tiny, tiny little baby, minute elephant in the long grass there. That long grass is probably about 3 feet high, and the elephant can barely see over the top. that a lovely scene? Pretty grass. Another small one. They're so cute. Look. Yes, Afni, you're in India and wondering if elephants have got good hearing. They've got very good hearing. Excellent hearing. They've got such big ears. And that helps them to hear very nicely. Isn't he funny? And now they'll probably play, just the two little ones together. I think they really like the taste of whatever creeper that is. It looks like a lot of the elephants are trying to find that creeper to eat. I don't know what it is, what kind of plant it is, but the elephants seem to love it. Here's a little one coming out now. Oh, that's a clever question, Nathan. The animals out here don't really get sunburned, no, and that's because they've got what's called melanin in their skin, and that's why the elephants are dark. It's why a rhino's dark. It's why a hippo's dark. It's why if you shave a zebra, it'll be this kind of color underneath the skin. And so, no, they don't get sunburned. Melanin allows them to stay unsunburnt in the hot African conditions. He's having a lovely scratch. It's a good question. So even if you shave a lion, for example, I've never shaved a lion because that would normally result in quite a few injuries. If you shave a lion, you'll find that its skin is very similar color to that of an elephant. So it's only organisms that lack melanin that are pinkish, like Caucasian human beings, that will sunburn. So African people in Africa don't sunburn much. They can sunburn, but they don't sunburn much because of melanin in the skin. That's magnificent. All right, we'll carry on from here. Let's go back to that very special cat with Lauren.
A very special cat indeed. Now, I'm a little bit concerned about his bowels. I wonder if he has a sore tummy. I'm not... Oh, he smells something. Look, look, look. He's doing a phlegm grimace. He's allowing air to pump in to that vomeronasal organ in his palate called the organ of Jacobson, which contains lots and lots of specialized receptors that taste the chemicals in the air, hormones, pheromones, taste the smell, and it sends a signal back to the brain and tells him what he's actually smelling. Is it a female leopard? Is it a male leopard? Zach, great question. We actually call them rosettes. I'm sure Owen can give you a nice close look. They're actually rosette-shaped rather than spots. So spotted hyenas have spots, but we call the leopard pattern rosettes. And although we think it's beautiful, and it absolutely is beautiful, girls wear bikinis with leopard patterns. Some people have duvets on their bedding with leopard patterns, or cushions or blankets, because it's gorgeous to us. But actually, in an environment like this, once the leopard walks into the vegetation, in amongst the grass and the trees and the leaves, the rosettes help to break up that body outline. It really assists them Sorry, I'm just keeping an eye on him, because if he goes further to my left, then we lose him. Let's go closer, Owen. So yes, it helps keep him camouflaged. So we can see him because he's on the road, but actually, if he was walking through the vegetation here, we may not see him because he's going to blend in completely. He's not obvious. The rosettes help break up his body outline, so he doesn't really look like an animal. Okay, Hook, don't you go west, my boy. Don't even think about it. You are just so gorgeous, aren't you? He's so gorgeous. Is this okay, Owen? Hope my positioning is not too horrendous. Oh, he's such a stunning leopard. He's got a very large head, especially compared to Tungana, our dominant male, the main dominant male of Djuma. Tungana's definitely a bigger leopard, but I have to say that Khokamoya, I believe, has got a bigger skull. He's got a very, very large skull. And he's in his prime. Khokamoya's in his prime. Tungana's now 13. Oh, I can smell your tummy. I think someone's got a little bit of diarrhea, everyone. Louise, I completely lost your comms there. I know you're talking to me, but I didn't hear a single word. Can you go one more time? Perfect, I got you back. One more time with that question, I'm sorry. Mishad and Vishrat, I hope I pronounced your names correctly. With one eye, leopards are essentially, they have binocular vision. So of course that will be impaired, but he's still a fantastic hunter. Why? Because he also heavily relies on his other senses. Leopards are olfactory predators, as most are. Hyenas, wild dogs. Lions, not so much cheetahs. Cheetahs are highly visual, but leopards are very olfactory. They rely on their sense of smell, and they taste the smells, which is what I was just explaining to you earlier. And he relies on his hearing. His hearing is very acute. He will be able to tell exactly where that sound is coming from, to an exact point. So, because he still has one functioning eye, he's still an expert level hunter. But if he was to lose that second eye, then I don't think he would be able to survive. It's very common to see both lions and leopards with damaged eyes, actually, because they engage in battle. They're males at the end of the day, and there's lots of lionesses, lions, and leopards with only one eye. Let's keep up with him, Owen, just so we don't lose him. We may not have him the entire drive, so I'll do my best to keep up with him. Isn't he beautiful? Savannah and Summer, you're both in the UK. Oh, I hope you're enjoying the lovely hot spell of weather that you're all having from your back gardens. Leopards are solitary, and what that means is they live out in the wilderness completely alone. They don't have a pack, they don't have a clan, they don't have a pride. They are completely on their own. And that's why for leopards, they are actually very difficult to see in the wild. We are really, really lucky where we are that they're so habituated. Khokamoya is very relaxed right now. But generally speaking, leopards are elusive. They're shy, they're secretive because they have to. They have to be that way. They don't have another leopard to rely on. The only time you will see leopards together is when they are mating, a male and female, or when it's mother and offspring. Generally speaking, they don't interact. We do witness quite a lot of interactions here, but as a rule, leopards are completely solitary. They're on their own. Hey, my boy. Just give him a little bit of space. He walks, he scent marks, then he relaxes. He walks some more, then he scent marks some more, and then he relaxes. can see the flies are bothering him. Can you see that? His skin is twitching. His tail is twitching. Gurvanj, you're 5 years old and you're also from India. It's fantastic. We have lots of viewers from India. Yes, leopards actually can swim. Now, a lot... Oh, Khokamoya is very smelly. Something is wrong with his tummy. Oofed. Lots of predators feel slightly nervous when going near water bodies. And why is that? Well, threats lie there in the form of crocodiles and all sorts of other dangers. For a leopard, they may bump into another predator. And of course, they may get ambushed by a croc. So they're normally quite nervous being around water, but yes, leopards can swim. Most mammals can swim, and they're born with the ability to swim. Humans and other primates are the handful of mammals that actually have to learn how to swim. Oh, the flies are really annoying you, boy. They would annoy me too. Khokamoya's tongue never used to hang out the way that it does now. But for some reason, after his eye got injured and he engaged in quite a few battles with other male leopards, his tongue lolls out of his mouth and gives him a very unique appearance. Okay, I'm going to try and keep up with the hook for as long as I can. And as I do that, we are going to send you all the way to andBeyond in Ngala with Nikki, who's got his binos out.
So just after leaving that elephant, we found these two warthogs on our way to a waterhole. But have a look at how the one, is keeping a good look out to see if there's any potential danger. But the one on the left, see how he's just keeping his head down, grabbing all that lush, fresh grass. Like after the rain, there's quite a bit of fresh grass there. And look at how he's on his knees, just moving around, picking some of the grass. If you look at their color, it might look like they have like a bit of a shine to them. And that's because they've been laying down in the water. Oh, there's also a zebra, my favorite animal, coming out. Now, I know I've told some of why the zebra is my favorite animal, but I just wanted to reiterate. So see, if you look at the neck, have a look at how the stripes run from the neck into the mane, and then the mane from between the shoulders to between, like the shoulder blade, or from between the ears to the shoulder blades are exactly the same height. Oh, there's a little one coming out as well. Ariane, H5 from London, you had a very good question. Do all zebras have the same stripes or different stripes? So these zebras that you find here are known as the plain zebra or the Birchall zebra, but each and every one of them has a different stripe pattern. So it's like our fingerprints, not one of them would be the same. You'll see that little baby looks like he's a bit of a different color to mom. It almost looks like he has a little orange wash, and especially around his head. I think he was rolling down in the sand. Definitely. Look at his head. See how much browner it is, and even his legs. I think mom will need to take him for a bath. Look at how close he sticks to mom as well. Just want to make sure that mom doesn't leave him behind. EVH10, you're asking a really good question. What are some of the animals that I think can move the furthest in a day? Well, I think, based on what I've seen and what I know from my experience, I know elephants can walk pretty far. They can cover up to 30, 40 kilometers a day. But hyenas as well. I know of some areas, especially in the central part of South Africa, as well as places in Botswana, hyenas can move up to 70 kilometers over a stretch of 2 days. So that's probably like 35 kilometers a day. Wild dogs can also move quite far. I mean, a pack of wild dogs can also move close to 30 kilometers a day. So there's quite a few. I mean, birds, on the other hand, can move like kilometers on end. as well, because especially if they do catch some of the thermals, or even if they use the wind to their advantage. But I think from all the animals, those would probably be the ones that I think travel the furthest. I would like to hear if any of the kids would know about an animal that might travel further than 35 kilometers a day.
If you talk about worldwide, I know the caribou in Siberia do about 50,000 kilometers a year.
Or maybe, like, I would even like to hear if anyone has a bit more knowledge on, maybe we can even ask Lauren, because I think didn't she do marine biology as well? So maybe we can ask her how far some of the fishes and some of the mammals there would have swam in one single go. Be interesting to know. But how special is this whole scene? I mean, look at the warthogs. Then there's some zebra. See, there's another one moving in. I think my day is made with the zebra, definitely. And now those zebras are moving in the direction of the warthog. So what I'm thinking is maybe what we can do is follow them and see if we can get to that warthog. We don't know what there would be, but I reckon there's always a chance we might end up with a little surprise. So we're going to say goodbye to the kids, but please, kids, keep on watching, and we're going to welcome all our regular viewers. Welcome. We're at andBeyond Ngala at the moment. I'm Nikki. That's going to be a ranger today, of course. And then with me is Marcel, who's behind the camera. So we just are having a look at a herd of zebra, and they are slowly moving off. And what I'm thinking, as soon as they have moved off, there's a warthog not too far, and we can start heading. We'll head in that direction. But for now, let's head across to Lauren with that leopard of hers.
My leopard is entirely flat right now, I'm afraid. He's decided to take a bit of a snooze in the grass, so we may not have the best visuals of him, but he's still there. At least we're going to manage to keep up with him this way, because he's not moving too far. Hook, I must say, is the most active male that we have around here at the moment during the day. Leopards are primarily nocturnal, as you know. And, hello. Normally when it gets hot and it's sort of really mid-heat of the day from 11 till 3, 4, leopards are normally flat, generally speaking, unless they're eating or they're having a drink. So Khokamoya we've actually seen twice in 1 week, and he's highly, highly mobile, even in the hottest part of the day, which is quite unusual. Get a really good look at those rosettes now. It's really all we can see, to be honest, and you can see why they're actually called rosettes and not spots. I'm hoping he might come into Djuma. We're on a boundary line, so he might cross west when we can't follow, but if he crosses east into Djuma, then he's all ours. I do wonder, we speak about this a lot, but I do wonder if our Princess Tlalamba will actually end up mating with Khokamoya. He's the father of Shudulu's cub, Kara. We do actually have the paternity test that confirm that. But even if we didn't, he is absolutely the spitting double of her father, Kara. She looks just like him. But before she was named Kara, we normally don't name a leopard's cub until 1 year old because the survival rate is not very high, I'm afraid. So it's best not to name them. So before she was officially named Kara, she was the daughter of Khokamoya and Shudulu. So Kara was called Hukadulu. I don't know who came up with that name, but I love it. Whichever genius came up with that name, well done, Hukadulu. But she's now officially called Kara, which is also a very, very beautiful name. Louise is saying if Hukumuri and Tlalamba have a cub, it needs to be Hukulamba. Now, there's another vehicle in this sighting, so I'll just try to be as quiet as possible. Clearly, the ring-necked dove didn't get that note. Cuckoo, 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 cuckoo. The beat of the bush. And Nanya, you're also from India, and you're asking if leopards do cough up fur balls. Sometimes they can, yes, but they have specially designed tongues that are actually very rough. If you ever touch a domestic cat's tongue, you'll see that it feels like sandpaper. Leopards are the same, and this is designed so that they can groom themselves meticulously, but also so that they can lick the prey to remove the hair from the prey. So of course they end up swallowing some hair. So they can cough up fur balls, but not as much as a domestic cat, I don't think. They often produce very, very hairy poos. Yes, if you ever see leopard scat, you will see that there's lots and lots of hair in the scat, which is not so delightful. But yes, it passes through their digestive system and out the other end. Hairy poos. But yes, they do end up swallowing a lot of fur balls. Or fur, sorry, which can produce fur balls once it's in the digestive tract. I'm wondering if we can try and get a better position if we go around the other side. But then I think we're just going to get the back of his head. You see his belly? He's panting heavily. He's hot. Killen, you're 10 years old and you're from Ireland. Top of the morning to you. That's my Irish accent. It's obviously a terrible one. But yes, essentially they do share the same territory. So a male leopard's territory will be much bigger than a female's. And the reason it's so big is so that he can encompass many different females within his territory. So the minimum amount is normally said to be around 3 females in one male's territory. And you have to remember they all overlap. And sometimes a male leopard in his prime, like Khokamoya here, Hukumuri's territory is huge, much bigger than Tingana's. He will have many different females residing within his territory. So the priorities for a male leopard are water, food, and females, access to females. Priorities for a female are water and food in order to get strong and for their offspring, but then they need to be under the protection of a dominant male. As long as they're mating with that male will not harm them. Okay, hopefully Hukumuri will wake up soon. Oh, just like that. And it appears like Mr. Hendry has made it to Tandy's den, so let's go across and see if the cubs are there.
Here, we'd expect to find her either on top of the bank or, I think, in the sand just below. Now, if you are a new viewer, we found 2 little leopard cubs here about 3 days ago now, and they're about 6 to 8 weeks old, which means that they are mobile. They can climb. They will move around into and out of the little crevices that are here at the den site. And the other thing they will do, and this is what everyone needs to be aware of, is that if there is a kill, and Tandy's got a kill, she will quite possibly start to take them towards the kill by now. And so there's no guarantee that they're in here at all. also able to climb, which means we need to look in all the trees as well and just make sure they're not observing us from slightly higher up. There's such a huge number of little spots where they could be hiding. And what's great is that they don't seem to be nervous of the vehicles. They've seen vehicles twice now. So we're just scanning around with the binoculars, with the camera. Any evidence of little spots. Yeah, Debbie, me too. You see spots everywhere. I felt quite tense coming in here, not knowing what we'd find. Tundi, cubs, angry Tundi, calm cubs. All this. Nothing. George and Jack, it's highly likely that if Khokamoya or Tingana came across this den, I mean, Tingana, I don't know if he's mated with Tundi recently. He could have mated with her, they could be his cubs, so he might do nothing. And he might, if he did mate with Tundi, and even if she didn't conceive and she then mated with Mawati and begat these things, he might think they're his. And so chances are he might leave them alone. Khokamoya would almost certainly kill them. The old stat that we throw about quite regularly is that 80% of leopard cub fatality is the result of unrelated male leopards like Khokamoya. Khokamoya is so far away from here, though, has shown absolutely no indication that he's going to try and push this far east, so I don't think he'll ever be a threat. But Tingana could be, if he's not the dad. As could Mawati, if he's not the dad. Every bird that flies out here, I just look out quickly, check. And because they're mobile, we must be careful not to be totally fixed. I can hear a flycatcher giving off what sounds like a small alarm call. And I just look along the top of the bank. And it is amazing how instinctually these leopards know how to hide from the beginning of their lives. But like I say, they might not be here. They might have gone with their mum off to a kill. Alright, I'm going to sit here for another 5 minutes and then we're going to move off. You're going to go back to Lauren, who's already got spots.
Yes, I have the spots. Oh, I do. Now, just an update. Khokamoya has, he's on a property called Arathusa to the west of us that we don't traverse. But because we're on the boundary line right now, we are allowed to view from the boundary line, and that's not a problem. So he's resting up this termite mound, and I really do hope he comes down and, of course, graces us with his presence back on the boundary line. So you're more than allowed to view from here, but sadly, if he goes any further in, we won't be able to see him. There's actually impala just up ahead, and I don't think they're aware of his presence. They're just up ahead. There's a herd of them. Mixed herd. I can see females and males. I don't know if he's watching them or at least keeping one of his eyes on them. The only eye he can keep on them. Oh, he's so mighty fine. And termite mounds are great places for leopards to rest. They're nice and cool. Hardy, a chart, not so much. But I do have a territories map. I'm working on it, everyone. It's almost finished. And I will be able to show you it. It'll be one of my hand-drawn maps again, I'm afraid. But you can head over to my Instagram, and there's a little section for leopards. And you can click on it, and each leopard has their own profile. So you can learn a little bit more about them, where they come from, what their name means, what spot pattern they have, and if their offspring or father, mother are known. You're welcome to head over to my Instagram and view that, but otherwise we don't have a chart. But I promise you very soon he's spotted the impala, by the way. Oh, and can we just show how close the impala are? They're just up here. They're actually on the Djuma side of life. And they don't know he's there. They are not alarming, they're not staring. They're not bothered at all because they don't know the predator is on that termite mound. But I think he's watching them. He's, of course, got to use his left eye, but he's watching these impala. He's staring at them, but I don't think he's in hunting mode just yet. So everyone, if you do enjoy our safaris every day, of course we're out here for 6 hours a day. Sometimes we find everything, sometimes we find nothing. Sometimes we tear our hair out, sometimes we laugh. And if you enjoy watching all of that, please do head over to www.wildearth.tv/support, and you're welcome to offer us any support in any way that you can. The option is there. So yes, the territories map that I am designing right now is based on the Panthera sightings report, which sadly we can't share with you, but I am able to replicate it in my own terrible artistic work and at least give you an indication of where the leopard's territories are and their movements. It won't be perfect, it probably won't be completely accurate, but it just gives you an indication of who moves where and why they move that way. Oh no, please don't disappear on us. Everyone is walking further into Arathusa, I'm afraid. He doesn't look like he's in hunting mode. But I am just going to stay here for a few minutes, A, just in case he pops back out, and B, just in case he shows any interest in these impala here. Are they alarming? I think they're slightly suspicious, actually. I think they're aware that a predator is in the vicinity, but I don't think they can actually see him. Okay, I'm going to just stay here a little while, as I mentioned, and hopefully, he pops out. But for now, you guys are going to go back across to Nikki and see what he's up to.
So we just managed to get to the waterhole, and as we got here, there was an elephant bull that came down and drank a bit of water. Now he's moving across. We might just see him reappearing soon. And it looks like, as Marcella's saying, it also looks like he might be in musth, but look at that. I know one of our viewers is Candace, age 4, and the other day she said she really wanted to see an elephant because an elephant's her favorite animal, and I hope she is watching to have a look at it. But the other reason why we stopped at the waterhole, and hopefully we can see this elephant if he comes down or if he decides to go in front of us, but I know a few of the viewers wanted to hear the story and wanted to hear the second day of that 3-day adventure that I did on foot in the Big 5 area and what I did in order to stay alive. So if everyone is all right with it, shall I carry on with the second day? So now for those viewers who don't know about the first day, so basically the story was about a 3-day adventure that I did wherever I ended up at night. That's why I spent out at night. And some of the crazy encounters that I had during that time. And on that first evening, I slept up in a hammock in a tree with a lot of thorn branches packed around it so that no lion or leopard can get up. But then, of course, I had a fear of an elephant coming up. but then it was a giraffe that just came to pick some leaves off. And during that time, I slept like a little baby. Now, that next day, I woke up very early in the morning with the sound of a male lion roaring in the distance. I pulled myself upright in the hammock, and I felt by my joints and by my limbs that it was quite a restless night. I could feel my legs were stiff and my feet were sore. I slowly managed to get myself out of the tree, carefully avoiding all the branches with all the thorns that I have set down. I folded up everything, packed everything into my backpack, and the first as I could, I drank quite a bit of water, lifted up my backpack, and then continued my journey. Now, I had to set up a new goal of where I'm going to spend the next part of the evening. So I certainly wanted to make sure that I ended up in an area where at least some of the trees were big enough in order to support me, but also they had to be big enough so that an elephant didn't push it over. And I decided on a beautiful place known as Mdulamiti Sand Forest. Now, Mdulamiti means giraffe in the local language Zulu, and this forest had these massive trees, and I think hence the massive tall trees, they probably referred to it as a giraffe. And that's where I needed to go before the sun set, because the last thing I wanted to do is end up, oh, there's a hippo that just popped up near us. We'll try and see if he comes up again. I'm glad he also wants to listen out to the story. So that's where I wanted to end up before the sun went down. Now, this forest was situated in the northern region up in KwaZulu-Natal in a beautiful reserve called andBeyond Private Game Reserve. And it covered one of the most beautiful valleys, rivers, and mountains in that entire area. So what I had to do from here is I had to go down the mountain where I spent the evening, like carefully stepping amongst the rocks to avoid any loose rock or possibly even a snake, until I can make my way down to an old game trail. And from there on, I can start making my way down the bottom of this mountain and then start heading in the direction of this Mdulamiti or giraffe sand forest. As I managed to get down the mountain, slowly putting one foot in front of the other. Now, to bear in mind, the backpack that I carried mainly had water in it. Because at that time it was so dry, I was afraid that if I ran out of any water, I might have ended up with a big problem. Dehydration, disorientation, and then from there on, like, it just becomes worse and worse. But at that time as well in my guiding career, I have never seen a wild dog out in the wild. Like, I have seen a lot of documentaries about them. I have had a few encounters, but they were never out in the wild. And not even 50 meters off the road, as I was following this game trail down, I found my very first wild dog tracks. I looked at the set of tracks, and as I looked at them, my enthusiasm grew more and more, and I got so excited that I just wanted to find these wild dogs. However, I could say with fairly certainty that the tracks were not too fresh, maybe a week old. But in my heart, I so desperately wanted to see them that they looked quite fresh. But then I also saw some other tracks around, and that of an aardvark, which of course is one of my favorite animals as well, after the zebra. And I started following the tracks of this aardvark, slowly to discover the remains of an old termite mound that's been dug up by this aardvark. I could see the claw marks inside the mound, as well as the flattened soil where the tail of this magical creature had rested. Carefully I scanned into the hole and saw the flies coming up, and I knew that this aardvark probably was in there. Now, like the wild dogs, the aardvark was also a magical creature to me that I haven't seen on a regular basis. But I knew that he had to be in there, and if I had waited around, I probably had to wait well into the evening before he would have showed his face. But this was an amazing discovery for me. I've never seen a wild aardvark at that time in the wild, and I knew exactly where to go at night, especially with my guests, in order to explore and find one. Pretty soon I just left the barrow and I made my way up to a very beautiful view known as Bride's Bush. Now, Bride's Bush is this one area, so just to give you an idea, as I was walking over the mountain, I had to go down into a valley, and this is where I found the wild dog and aardvark tracks. And from there on, I had to go up into another mountain, and after that mountain, I would go down and then descend towards that forest where I needed to spend the night. However, the slope was fairly steep, but with every step high up the mountain revealed more and more of a beautiful landscape. I finally reached the top of this mountain, which is also on top of the Lubombo Mountains. So the Lubombo Mountains is the Zulu word for big nose, and it's a beautiful mountain range that stretches over 800 kilometers on the northeastern side of South Africa. Now, as I got to the very top, I was welcomed by a dazzle of zebra that were drinking water a couple of meters away from me. I sat down behind the bush and peeked around to look and to see if these zebra, with the golden sunlight of the morning on their mane, would be able to see me, and if I can just sit there and watch them patiently and quietly without them knowing I'm there. I thought I had managed to move this close without being spotted. Then one of them looked up, gave a loud snort, and then cut through the crisp morning air to alert the others of my presence. They ran off, and only a few meters further, they turned around and they looked back at me. I moved out and made my way past them. With them being able to see me, and they knew that I was no threat to them, they settled down and continued feeding, still keeping their eyes on me. That morning I did not see a lot of animals, but I saw a number of buffalo skulls, carcasses, and all of these animals were probably killed by lions a while ago. I came to the very edge of the mountain and sat down, and at this time my shoulders were aching, like the backpack that I carried probably weighed, as I said, 35 kilograms. I could see the sand forest in the distance, a few kilometers more or less in the northeasterly direction from where I was sitting. I used my binoculars to look out for certain landmarks to help me find my way in the dry forest. The habitat started changing from a rocky area on the mountain to a more sandy area, and from an area with a lot of mountains and elevated areas to a flat area that was covered with canopy trees. This made it very difficult to navigate because earlier on, because of the vantage point of the mountain, I could see quite clearly, and then moving into the valley, the skylight started fading away as the canopies of the trees started increasing more and more and became more and more dense. Now, as eager as I was to explore this new area, I had to push through the pain of blisters on my feet and the weight of my backpack, which made it very difficult to move down. Because of the weight, my feet would move inside my shoe, and that caused even more blisters. A few kilometers on the road, I found a big termite mound with a tree growing out of it. I sat down underneath the tree, took off my backpack, and had something to eat and drink. Now, this time, I didn't really pack any food in order to survive during this 3 days. However, I did take a few things that if something had to happen to me, that I would be able to stay alive until someone would find my position. At this stage, my feet were hurting, so I took off my shoes, hung up my socks on a nearby shrub to dry out in that breeze that was blowing that morning. A few minutes later, I put on my shoes, picked up my bag and rifle, took another big sip of water, and continued my walk. The area started getting thicker and thicker, and the way north into the sand forest, the sand also became thicker and more loose, and it made it even more difficult to move. I saw fewer and fewer animals as the area became denser, because now I could not see as far as I used to. Now, the radio was strapped on my left backpack shoulder to listen to any of the rangers, that if they had seen anything, at least I would know more or less where all the dangers were. Now, I constantly remembered, like as I was walking, early on that morning, one of the rangers radioed me and said there was a herd of elephants in that sand forest where I was about to spend the night. Now, to make things even a little bit more exciting, there was also reports of a big male lion that was heading in the direction that I was moving in. And I thought to myself, there is no way around. I have to move through the area in order to get there. But in the back of my mind, I'm just thinking about elephants, and I'm thinking about a big male lion that might eventually appear on the scene. The update of this male lion made me slow my pace. So by slowing my pace, I scanned very carefully under each and every tree. I listened for any growls or maybe the flick of a tail, because often with male lions, whenever you move close, especially on foot, you'll often hear the tail banging against the vegetation on the side like a doof, 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 doof. and the last thing I wanted to do at that moment was to accidentally surprise him. I moved slowly, carefully stopping, scanning again, listening out for the growls, branches of twigs moving. Nothing. The morning was so quiet, as if all the animals knew that was going on and waited in anticipation to hear what's going to happen with me and this lion. Hours passed and the day started getting warmer and warmer, and still no tracks or signs of this male lion. I thought to myself, he probably decided to lay down under the tree, close to where the tracks were found off the road, I thought. By now, I was already a few kilometers away from where the tracks had been seen, so I decided now it's time to pick up the pace, because I need to get to this Dundulamiti forest before the sun fades away. I arrived at the sand forest just as the sun went down, and I was amazed to see the elephant tracks that were scattered all over the forest. I could even see the tracks of baby elephants, and this alarmed me, for I knew that if there were baby elephants, maybe there would be an angry mother that we were trying to protect this youngster, even though I was no harm. There were also tracks of elephant bulls that was probably in musth due to the urine drops that were on the ground right in front of me. Slowly lowered my backpack against one of the big trees, listening to any branches breaking or any stomach rumblings of those elephants. The area was dead quiet, only the sounds of a few birds calling in the forest. Now, my feet were blistered due to the soft sand. I took off my shoes and tended to my blisters. Over the last 2 days, I have traveled 55 kilometers through a variety of different terrains and elevations. And this had its impact on me. I picked out one of the biggest trees I could possibly find. One with a circumference of probably 2 or 3 men holding hands together would not be able to go around this tree. And I thought to myself, I need to make sure that I get one that has a greater circumference than that of an elephant's head. That if, during the evening, a herd of elephants had to move into this forest, and they had to become aware of me, that even if they tried to push over the tree, I was safe. Well, that's what I try to remind myself of. Now, I climbed up into the tree, slowly maneuvered my way down one of the big branches, tied my hammock, crawled back, slowly maneuvered my way onto another branch and tied it so that the hammock was probably 5 meters up or 6 meters up in the air, dangling between 2 horizontal branches. I took a massive sip of water, had something to eat, made my way into the hammock to watch the sunset over the horizon through these gigantic trees. And minutes after, the sunset, the moon started appearing in the east. I could see the faint white light through the canopy of a giant torchwood tree. As the sun faded, the moon brought new life to the sand forest. I could hear nightjars calling, small animals moving in the understory, and bats using echolocation when they often fly and make this high-pitched noise in order to try and find some insects. All of them awoke from their daytime slumber. During that night, I could not hear any sounds from elephants or any predators other than the side-striped jackal calling in the distance. And that was the second night. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that. So there is still another day left of the story, and I know I've caught you like in the middle of it all, but you're going to have to stay tuned in for the rest of the story, which I will then, whenever I'm doing another kids drive, I will then give everyone like the rest of the update on what happened further on. But so there were quite a few interesting things that happened during that time, and I think the last day was probably the most exciting day out of all of them. But you have to wait until such time before I can tell you that story. For now, let's head across to James for an update.
Goodness gracious, 3 days dragged out. It's taking him almost 3 days to tell the story. I will not tell the story of my 10 days unarmed walking at Ngala, because I just don't think there are enough hours left on live safari and over the next 4 years or so. Anyway, it sounds like they slept out, which we didn't have to do. So we've basically came around to the top of Tundi's den, looked around there, couldn't find anything up top there. We're going to move on. I find it a little bit strange I find it a little bit strange that Thandi is not there unless she's on a kill and has either been back to feed them or she's taken them to a kill. No. Now you see, the danger when there are leopard cubs around is that you make a mistake, which I almost did here. Here's what I looked at. Now, I mean, that looks like a leopard cub track, doesn't it? And this also looks like a leopard cub track, doesn't it? Don't you think, David? But how do we know that it is not a leopard cub track? Two reasons. One is that this would be a very early independent leopard. There's no mama track here in the mud, and this animal's gone off in here. The second is the claws. This is a civet, and there are its claws. So, although it looks semi like a leopard track, it's a bit fat, and the back of the track's not the right shape. It's not a leopard. It is a civet. Anyway, let's continue. That sound of Franklin's that you've just heard is the kind of sound that used to make me jump clean out of my skin when I was doing those walks as a trainee guide. And I think that they do it probably much more competently now, because it sounds like it's at the end of the training process that you go out and you spend time alone in the wilderness. Ours was at the very beginning. And to say I was clueless when I went out into the wild would have been a gross compliment, an undeserved compliment to me. I was utterly without knowledge, full ignorance, and they sent me out. And whenever a Franklin did that, I was convinced I was going to be savaged by something immediately. Nice. I remember spending a long midday in a tree. I just come across the umpteenth buffalo bull sitting on the banks of the Timbavati River in very thick bush. And I thought, this is ridiculous. This is madness. Why am I doing this? I'm not some kind of outdoorsman. I'm not a great big brave Bear Grylls type of human. I don't think Bear Grylls, we didn't know who Bear Grylls was yet. And then I climbed this apple leaf tree with the buffalo not too far away. I think he'd just seen me, but he left me alone. He by no means attacked me. And I sat up there for about an hour, breathing heavily, giving serious consideration to why on earth it was that I was subjecting myself to this. And I don't know that I came up with an answer. I just knew that I would have to finish it, that I wouldn't be able to look myself in the eye if I went home and said, I've had enough, thank you, I'm done. Because in those days, if you didn't finish the walks, cheers, bye-bye, thanks for playing, it's great to have you, off you went. I suspect it's the same now, but anyway, live to tell the tale. Yes, Jimmy Grills is what they always called me, because I'm so rough and tough and ready. Also, my hair is always perfect like his. Oh, where are you, Thandi? Why don't you want to see us with your babies? Well, if anyone's going to find another leopard, it's going to be Lauren, so let's go back across to her.
Yes, I will find another leopard. I may have lost one. Well, I didn't lose him. He chose to go in a different direction. But yes, I will. I seem to be having all the leopard luck in the world right now. There we go. So he's disappeared into Arathusa. We stayed for about 10 minutes. The impala knew something was up. I think they could smell his runny tummy. They have a good sense of smell, but I don't think they were able to see where it was coming from, but they knew a leopard was in the area. So we stayed for 10 minutes in case he really was stalking those impala and he was watching them. But we didn't manage to see him again, so I'm going back down the road. I've done a U-turn and I'm just going to check for any signs of him, and then of course if there's nothing, we're going to bumble south and find our second leopard, just to make James smile from ear to ear, which he will. It could just be here. But of course the grass is so long, I'm afraid. It's impossible to be able to see over the top of it, but we'll try. Martha, you are 10 years old, and you know that's a very good question. It's a two-parter. I'll start with the first one. Yes, animals talk to one another. Every single animal on this planet, from a snail to a fish to a leopard, an elephant, butterfly, they all communicate. Communication is one of my favorite things to talk about. Animals all communicate, but it might not be verbally. Yes, humans talk, and we talk a lot. We have about 10,000 plus words in our vocabulary. So we think that that's the main way to communicate. But humans also communicate through eye contact, through body language, through smells, through all sorts of other senses that we have. But we tend to think we can only communicate verbally. I was actually brought up, and I'm fluent in BSL, British Sign Language, not ASL. I can't do ASL, which is American Sign Language, but I'm fluent in BSL. No one in my family is deaf, but my family owned a deaf home, and we got brought up signing as our second language. So my entire family can sign, which is fantastic. And that just teaches you there are other ways to communicate. You can communicate using your hands without saying a single word. So every single animal can communicate, but it may not be vocally. Now, what the leopards are doing, and what Khokamoya was doing, was scent marking. He was rubbing his face in the vegetation. He was leaving his message. I'm Khokamoya, I'm a male, dominant, this is my territory, for anyone who wants to come by. And when he was opening his mouth, he was actually smelling in a really bizarre way. He was pumping air into his mouth, into the palate, to get the message. Who was here? What female's been here? Is she an estrus? Is it a male? Who's been in my territory? So they communicate through sense of smell. They rely on their sense of smell in order to communicate. They do vocalize as well, but not all animals vocalize. Fish use all sorts of weird and wonderful signals. They can't talk underwater, but they can talk to one another in a different way. And it's also through chemical communication. Fish actually secrete chemicals that they can communicate with one another in the water. So, second part of your question, Martha, can humans understand? 5%, I think. I think we understand 5% of animals, maybe even less. We can read an animal's behavior sometimes. We understand that when a leopard is vocalizing by sawing, that he's being territorial. But, Martha, I think there's so much that we don't understand. I think that there's so much we don't see, and there's so much that we have still to learn about animals. We don't understand chemical signals. I can't go to a leopard's urine and understand what it means. I think there's a lot we still have to understand, Martha, but that was a great question. Thank you so much. I wish humans understood a little bit more about animals. It'd be so lovely to have a conversation with leopards. So I have lost my leopard, but I'm going in search of another one, and it appears that Nikki has actually found a leopard. Over to him.
So we went back to that carcass that we found this morning that was hoisted up in the tree, and we just found the male leopard, but it's hard to see. You'll just see the movement through the grass there, and also a little patch of white. We're going to try our best to see if we can just spend some time here, and he might just lift his head. Earlier on, there were some Franklins moving, and then he picked up his head to have a look at them. But eventually what we want to do as well is show everyone the carcass. he's eaten quite a bit of it, and I think you might just leave it tonight, after tonight. So if we spend some time with him, let's see if he might just start getting up. You can just see the flies are bothering him quite a bit, and I think it might be because of all the blood and that, like it's on his face from the carcass, and now he's just brushing his paw through his face to try and get rid of him. You'll always also see like the ear flicking in the grass. Jack, age 6 from the UK. You are asking how do most animals like cope with the flies? So first, they'll of course try and flick their ears. They might start flicking their tail. They might swat with their hands in front of their face. They might even snatch at the flies. But so some of the other animals like wildebeest and that, they can they will use their tails. They would like try and move. Leopards could sometimes lay up in the trees, like where there's a bit of a breeze blowing, to get rid of the flies. The other thing is like rhinos and buffalo, they might even go and lay down in the water, or even go and roll down in the mud, just to protect themselves against, of course, the sun, but it might also help with the flies. But you can see often if a leopard is irritated with flies, it's not going to be long before he'll lift his head. So it'd be really worth it for us just to stick a little bit longer and see if that happens. See already how he's starting to lift his head. He's not too comfortable with them being around. And the other thing about him as well, with this carcass being here, there's no hyenas that we've noticed. And I think as soon as the hyenas probably come around, they'll bother him and he'll start heading up into the tree. But one of the things that I really enjoy is often, like I know with some of the viewers that are excited to see him again. So, Karen, you had a very good question. Where are all the hyenas? It's very interesting. I haven't seen any hyenas here today. And I heard last night there was a few hyenas, like as some of the bones were dropping from the impala, they would go and pick it up. But I haven't seen any hyenas here, and I think maybe the main reason for it is because the impala there's no real smell up in the air, and I think as soon as it starts rotting a bit more, the hyenas might appear. Also, the other thing is he's not currently up in the tree, and there's no vultures around. I think the vultures, because it is cooling down, has moved off, probably heading back to their nests for the night, and so therefore no vultures, no tawny eagles around, so the hyenas probably not all of them are aware that there would be a carcass up in the tree. Which is very interesting. Normally at this time there would be like one or two hyenas like moving around. I also think maybe because he is here, there could have been some, but now they're laying further in distance where we can't see them, just waiting for him to move off before they move in. Because even with him, he's quite a big male leopard, and if there's just one hyena, he'll try and chase them off. But there's, of course, if there's 6 or 7, he might not be able to do that. So the name for this leopard is called Tambuati Tom. I know a few of the viewers have asked the question. Now, we don't really name animals like in regards to some of their features. We actually name or recognize individuals based on where they come from. So this male was from an area called Tambuati, and so therefore he was referred to as Tambuati Tom. Because of that area that he originated from. But he is the dominant leopard of this particular area. So like just watching his movement and also knowing from past experience, like the areas that he has moved in, like he is the one that's currently pushing out quite a few of the younger males. And there's another young male that some of you have heard called the Makoti male, the one that got his name from catching vultures. And that male is quite young, and so this one would tend to push him off from this area, because this male would probably have an area big enough where it stretches over 3 or 4 females leopard's territories. So we're just going to focus just to show you what's left of the carcass. Milan H10, you were asking a really good question. How much can a big male leopard eat in one go? Now with this male here, I would like to use him as an example based on his size and what I think he'll be able to eat. So this big male that we saw here, he'll probably be able to eat close to 12, 13 kilograms of meat in one go. You can see the flies are bothering him quite a bit now. I'm just hoping, like the reason why we're sitting is just hoping that he might just stand up or lift his head so we can get a glimpse of his face. But for now, we're going to keep an eye on him. Let's head across to Lauren with some elephants.
I can only see one elephant, but I wonder if there's more around. We're just going to stay here and see where this Ellie goes, because it's very, very relaxed, happily feeding as the sun is starting to set. Now, I do feel we need to show you the view behind us. Excuse the power line. Sadly, there's not much we can do about this, but we have the most magnificent, dramatic skies behind us. But we do have a power line in the way, I'm afraid. But isn't that wonderful? Now, Martha, you've really inspired me into thinking about non-verbal communication. So if it's non-verbal, it can be visual with your eyes, it can be auditory with your ears, it can be tactile by touch, or it can be chemical. And humans lack the chemical understanding. We are not designed to really smell or taste chemical cues. We're not. We're very poor at it. And we have to sort of understand that that's where our limits are. How is this for you, Owen? I think it's a bull, and I actually think he is on his own. A young bull. Sometimes the young bulls are pushed away from the herd, but they stay close. And with elephants, it's fascinating when it comes to their communication. Elephants are very social animals. As you know, they travel in herds, so it's really, really important that they have ways of communicating. And it has to be a well-developed system so that they can all communicate over distances and amongst a herd. So with elephants, they actually make use of many of their senses. Hearing, smell, vision, touch. They actually also have an exceptional ability to detect vibrations on the ground. They have very specialized cells on the sole of their feet that help detect vibrations. Elephants can communicate in the most wonderful ways that I guess we don't fully understand, to be honest. Ronan, you're 6 years old from Cape Town, and you were actually wondering how they communicate. They communicate in all sorts of ways. So, at one end of the spectrum, I guess, Ronan, elephants can communicate by touching one another with their trunks, or, I don't think this is a very good view, is it? Shall I move forward, Owen?
Yeah.
Yes, I just realised that we're looking at a bush with a grey bottom sticking out of it. So yes, sometimes elephants will communicate by touching one another with their trunks. They're very tactile. And although it looks like they're being sweet, they're actually communicating. They can also communicate by rubbing their bodies against one another. Is this okay, Owen?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, my boy. I see you. You're very handsome. You are. You're a lone bull. You're actually bigger than I thought. He looked a little bit smaller when he was behind the trees. I'm going to come right back to your conversation. I just want to keep a little bit of an eye on him because we got a head shake there, which is just a boy being a boy and letting us know that he's there. He's going to walk right in front of the car. Wow. He's much bigger than I thought. He's definitely over his teenage years. Let's go ahead and see if we can keep up with him. So not only do they touch one another, elephants can actually produce sounds that the human ear cannot hear. Even if you have amazing hearing, it's too low. It's out with the human hearing range, and we cannot hear it in any way, shape, or form. So they're talking to one another all the time, and we just can't hear it. So Ronan, they have different ways of communicating, and it's fascinating that they can do that. And they can also, of course, sense vibrations, as I mentioned. They have all sorts of layers of cells on their feet and their trunk. These are essentially their mechanical receptors, and that they're trying to understand the environment around them by detecting these vibrations. So they're very, very sensitive to it. So elephants are fantastic, and there's a part of me that also thinks that we don't fully understand everything there is to know about elephants, because we just cannot put ourselves in their position, if you like. We can't really compute what it would be like to hear sounds that low, what it would be like to feel vibrations and understand the environment around you, and of course what it would be like to smell all these chemical signals and have messages going to your brain that's telling you about the world around you from your nose. So Ronan, elephants communicate in so many different ways, and very little is verbal. Okay, our elephant bull also crossed into another property that we cannot traverse, so we're going to stick on the boundary line, and we're going to send you guys across to James with a bird.
Now that is an interesting bird, and I shall give you a... I shall give you a 5-minute window to tell me what you think it is. Well done, Louise. You don't get any points, however. Louise knows what it is. No guesses yet, Louise? No guesses? No guesses? Come on. Send them through. Hashtag WildEarth. Chat stream YouTube. On Twitch. Anushka reckons it's a brown snake eagle. Do you, Anushka? Really? Anybody else? Just Anushka? Only Anushka's prepared to put her head above the parapet and say, Yvette, you think it's a type of a hawk? Okay, good, thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else going once? Hawk or brown snake eagle? Going twice. Going, I'm going to let it go for 5 times. Going 3 times. Oh, Linda, you said it's an African eagle. Well, it certainly is an eagle, and it certainly is in Africa, but that ain't its name. Thank you. Oh, Charles, you say snake eagle. Anyone else? All right, you can all now take a deep breath. I'm going to tell you a what? Little Hale says, is it a whatty? A condor. No, it's not a condor. It is indeed the brown snake eagle, but it is a juvenile brown snake eagle or immature brown snake eagle, and that is why it has got the white bits on it. and why it looks like it is in need of a brush. Most of the time, the juvenile or immature birds look like they need a brush. And that's what that is. So well done to those of you who got it correct. I shall show you a picture, in case you don't believe me. There is the juvenile brown snake eaglet about to take off. Good. There he is sitting down. There is the adult flying. There is an adult sitting. This is not my photography, no. I'm just trying to find the pictures of the juveniles. There we are, the immatures. This is courtesy of the Roberts Bird app, number 2, I think, or 7. Very nice app. Very useful, as you can see. Good. Just got a message from a friend of mine. Very encouraging. I've got such lovely friends. This friend said, every time I turn on the TV, there's a leopard, but it's never you behind the wheel. I mean, I'd love to hit back with a, did you see, but I'm afraid there just is no, there's nothing to say really, except I have bad juju. So thank you, Neil, for that. Oh, free to dream, it was mainly when I was a junior guide that I scolded tourists. I took great pleasure in scolding tourists, because I'm a generally unpleasant human being, and so if a tourist stepped out of line, well, you know, I thought it was my duty to let them know that I found their behavior displeasing. And I told the story of the chairman I had to shout at the other day, who was ruffling a packet in a leopard sighting, and the leopard eventually charged us, and eventually I had to tell him to sit down and shut up, which I did. Generally, though, you want to avoid being nasty to people who've paid an enormous amount of money for the pleasure of your company. But one or two people did deserve the odd tongue lashing, as it were. Oh yes, I've also had to scold younger guides, definitely. Definitely one must scold younger guides at every available opportunity. A good scolding. Sometimes a good beating as well, I found, is very useful in imposing one's will. I am joking about that before anybody thinks I'm being serious. I have never beaten a younger guide. Sometimes a scolding is necessary, you know. No, Painter Girl, I will have that small nugget in my heart as my friends tease me mercilessly. I did find the cubs first. That was a small nugget of joy. Those were Ngalas, by the way. They're also fairly large nuggets of joy in my life. I think they're the most beautiful antelope that we find out here. So there it is. Who needs enemies when you have friends like I do? Jenna, you want another bird quiz? Well, if I can find an impossible to identify bird, I will most certainly ask you what it is. I mean, I think the brown snake eagle was probably a little bit easy for those of you who've been watching for a while, especially as many of you are South Africans and spend some time out here in the wilderness. Good afternoon. I was wondering if you had perhaps seen a leopardess with 2 cubs in these parts. Have you? Don't walk away from me when I'm talking to you. Absolutely no respect. It's definitely a millennial impala. We shall go down this road called Leadwood Road because it is named after a Leadwood tree, correct. Let's now go back to Nikki, who has had a lion, an elephant, some buffalo and a leopard, and in fact is so bored by the number of animals he's finding that he's left the leopard and will probably find another one very shortly.
So we had some very exciting news. So one of the rangers said they went past one of the other carcasses from this morning and they saw a leopard with a youngster there. Now, I am pretty excited because I haven't seen this youngster. I think I've only seen her twice. But the other times, every time she was seen, was in a really hard place. Before I say too much, let's just see if we can get it. It's not far. We're basically going to go to where the off-roading tracks were and see if we can find this leopard. I'm super excited. So it's somewhere off to the right here, where we are going to be moving. It's quite close to the river. Okay, Marcel, keep a good lookout. So what I'm going to do as well, because I don't know how these leopards will react. If it is the one that I'm thinking of, she might be pretty relaxed, but we'll just try and keep our voices down as we go along. So it was just somewhere in front here where that carcass was this morning, that impala carcass that we saw under one of the trees. So let's see if the youngster and the mother might be around. Oh, I can actually see the youngster. Look at this. Marcel, you see that tree just in front of us on the track? There we go. Wow, that is just so special. Please forgive me if I don't say too much and just enjoy it. It's just amazing. She might just be turning back over. Yeah. She might just be looking back to see where Mom is. And this was the leopard that we were trying for this morning. Remember we went in the riverbed, we saw the baboons, and that was actually looking for them. And how special is this now, late afternoon, with the sun setting behind us, and we're able to find them. So there's a few viewers that are asking which of the female leopards do this youngster belong to. So she actually belongs to a female called the Ngala female. Now where the Ngala female got her name from is the one day when they found her, she was up in a big Ngala tree, hence the name the Ngala female. Now this youngster is moving off to the back. Now apparently the carcass was on the right there, and she was looking onto the left, and one of the other rangers said that he thought he saw something there, so maybe that's where the mum could be. So what we're going to do, slowly start up, we'll move forward and see if we can see maybe both of them. So we'll just take it nice and easy. We'll scan out. So what I'm looking out for is maybe the white belly, maybe the flick of the tail. I knew where the youngster went in, so she might just be going off to the mother. It does look like a young female just based on her face, like very delicate, quite soft. Stacey, I do agree with you. She is a magnificent, beautiful leopard. I'm just going to move like this. You'll see her right there. Let's just stop. I don't want to get too close and disturb her. Like, I'd rather just let her get comfortable with us being here and let her know that we are no danger or... Oh, you know what? Let me just... So I'm just going to just pull it hard left down. There we go. Would you be able to see it from here? Let's just see if we can get a... Still no. All right. Let's try this again. Attempt number 3. Here we go. There she is. Wow. Just look at those features. I mean, even the whiskers. Look at how she's panting. I love her ears. Black and a bit of white. Christo, you're asking a very good question, like in regards to how does a leopard spot pattern work. Now, I'm not too sure in what context, but in terms of how like a leopard is spotted, it's called rosettes. So if you look at the pattern on the skin, you'll notice it looks like 5 spots that are fused together in the middle by like a lighter dot. Oh, she's actually coming a bit closer. Oh. She might have just laid down. We'll try and see. I see there might be an angle from a different area. So what we'll try and do is just move across. But with the leopard, they have these rosette spots, and then underneath the belly, it then eventually turns into these black spots on the. You'll see on the white and especially tail. We'll see if we can get another glimpse, Christian, and then I'll hoping to show you those spots. But for now, just bear with me as I move back a little bit, just to have a look. So just over me, I'm going to try and duck my head out of the way. Can you see the carcass? And then what I'll do as well is then just point out the whisker spot pattern around the face of the leopard, just to see how we can possibly identify them. But this is the carcass that we found yesterday afternoon. And you can see it's well hidden. Of course, it's only... been killed yesterday, so there's not a lot of smells around. So of course the hyenas haven't visited yet. Also there's no vultures because they can't see it from the air, but it does look like a big impala ram that the mother would have caught. Okay, for now let me quickly go back, because it would be really nice to point out those whisker patterns on the leopard, especially if we can see it. So let me go back a bit. So I'm going to try and position us in there and then see if you can get a glimpse. Just let me know if you get a glimpse. Can you get one? Oh, there we go. See, they actually call them Marcel eagle eyes. So, Christy, just with that, in regards to the patterns around the face, is often so with leopards, if you identify them, each individual leopard around the whiskers has a very unique spot pattern. So the spots are aligned in each individual very differently to one another, and that's what we use in order to identify them. So most of the leopard ID kits will be focusing, like if you look at her ears towards her eyes, you'll notice there's 2 big spots under her eyes. So those could be used as a very good indication, as well as closer, like towards her nose and the mouth. There could be other spots that we could use. But you'll see, oh, there she just decided to lay down. She didn't want to play this game with us. Well, I think what we're going to do from here, where she's laying down, we might get a glimpse if we do move back a slight bit, because she's just on the edge there. And if we move back, the area behind us actually curves, so we can have a look. So while we're trying to do that, let's head across to Lauren for an update.
No updates so oh, hello. Okay, sorry, I changed my mind. I'm going to try and get a little bit closer. I don't know how I did not see that ginormous thing in the middle of the road, everyone. It's not small. We are starting to lose the light here. My eyes struggle in those sort of dawn dusk times of the day. Humans are not designed to have good eyesight and the sort of low ambient light of the crepuscular times. We're really not designed. Now there's a giraffe here, but Nothing. Let's catch up with the tallest mammal of the bush. This is not a great signal area, so I'm hoping our signal doesn't dip, but I am going to pull up and give you a look at that. Walking. What name actually stems from? They move both legs on the same side at the one time. So it's 2 on the left, 2 on the right, 2 on the left, 2 on the right. And this is the exact same as a camel. And it's actually where they get their Latin name from. Giraffe, Camelopardalis. Isn't it beautiful? A beautiful, beautiful boy. Just casually strolling along the road. Nothing happening here, chaps. I'm just a giraffe walking along the road. I don't have a monitor. Louise just asked if this giraffe is limping, so I've got my binos out. Yeah, I see that now. Something's wrong with the back left leg at the knee joint. It looks swollen and slightly out of place, or he's just knocked knees. Oh yeah, he's walking very slowly as well. He's heading right into the Mulwanini, which is where I want to check. And why I want to check there is next on my list of leopards is Kuchava. Kuchava's my favourite leopardess. Tandy's daughter. Tony, you're saying giraffes are your favourite. I know. You can't help but love them. They're also my father's favourite. He is obsessed with giraffes. So we have giraffe ornaments and photos all around our house. I'm going to try and see if I can keep up with the giraffe, get a closer look, and while I do that, James also has an extremely large mammal for you all.
Here we have an elephant bull who is living on his own. He has forsaken the life of family to live alone as a bull. He's listening out for various things. You can see his ears quite wide open. And he's not... What was that, David? And that? Oh. And he's giving consideration to coming and saying hello to us. Hopefully it'll be a friendly hello, and not one that results in us having to beat a hasty retreat. He doesn't look like he's going to do that. Although this interaction is interesting, because he's definitely coming to say something to us. Might be hello, it might be could you please leave. Just see what he does. Now this kind of behaviour is also interesting because you can see he's not feeding with enthusiasm. There we go. It's almost like he's pretending to feed. And I always liken it to if you're at a party and you're feeling physically just a little bit uncomfortable. And instead of going and joining a group and having a chat, you kind of go to the buffet table and finger a couple of fairly disgusting sandwiches that you'd really rather not eat. Then you find the caviar and you eat a couple of mouthfuls of that and feel a bit better. But eventually you find yourself fidgeting again like he's doing, and finding it a little bit awkward. That's exactly what's going on here. And I suspect if we just sit here, he'll come down, probably a little bit closer. He's not showing any signs of anger or aggression at this stage. So if we just sit quietly, he might come a bit closer and say hello. He's now about 15 meters away. And So we don't want to take our eyes off him. We must keep our eyes on him and make sure that he is not giving us an indication that we should move off. Now he starts to feed properly. So I think he's going to do one of two things. Either he's going to go forward and up and out, or he's going to turn and he's going to come down towards us. Once he's got a full mouthful, there we go. So now he's making a choice. Do I come down towards them? See how he bit off the roots? That's very clever. Now he's got his foot up on a log. I'm not laughing at you, sorry. And just remember, many people will interpret that streaming between his eye and ear as musth, as his heightened time of testosterone, but it isn't. It's any kind of stress, we think, but he doesn't look stressed at all. There's no food stress, there's no water stress here, he's not around a herd of elephants, he's on his own. And he's not dripping from his penis sheath, which means that he's not in musth. Let's just listen to him feed. He's listening to us. I actually think he went quiet there because I went quiet. So that's him saying to us, I see you, what are you doing here? I don't really understand why you haven't moved away. Smelling? This is quite interesting. Interesting behavior. So what he chose to do there was move as far away from us as he could and come down the bank. So he didn't want to close the distance any more than he had already. Then when he got out into the open, I think that he can register this vehicle and the front of the vehicle as the front. And so he faced us, registering us as front onto each other. Possibly because the vehicle's got two headlights which look like eyes, or possibly because he can see us looking forward. Then that head shake means I'm not that cool with you guys here. And he moved off. So none of his behavior has indicated an animal that is aggressive in any way. So Hannah, you say your heart is beating so fast. Well, it should be around elephants. That's always a good thing. But I think that, especially given the number of South Africans watching and how many of you travel to, as my parents call it, the game reserve, meaning the Kruger area, you'll see elephants a lot. People drive into elephants a lot in the Kruger, and they are often quite nervous and don't know how to interpret their behavior because it takes a long time to learn to interpret elephant behavior. And so I hope maybe you got something out of that, and next time you see an Ellie in the Kruger, it might help you decide whether he's aggressive or potentially dangerous or not. He doesn't, Claire. What he's doing, and if you look carefully, what he's doing is he's putting the grass in his mouth and he's biting the roots off. The roots have got sand on them, so he shakes them out a little bit, puts them in his mouth, and then he bites, and the roots drop off. So he's very specific about which parts of the grass plant he's eating. They look like indiscriminate eaters, but they're not in the slightest. They're highly selective about what they pick up and put in their mouths when they can be, and in summer they can be. That was wonderful. It's always so special to have an interaction like that. Avril, yeah, I suppose bull elephants probably do get lonely, but you know, when they do get lonely, I think what they do is just go and find other elephants. They'll go and hang around on the periphery of a herd. They might go and find other bulls. Often you'll find 2 or 3 bulls together. When they get to around his age, I would have put him at around about 30 years old. They tend to be on their own, and I think it's because they choose to be on their own. It's not like somebody said to them, you have to go off now and be on your own. And it's not like they leave the herd going, but I want to stay home forever and ever. You know, it's a process of them seeking out their independence and then choosing to be on their own. So, yeah, maybe they get a little bit lonely, but I don't think hugely. All right. If you are enjoying our drives so far, which I'm assuming you are because you're with us, and you would like to support us, please go to wildearth.tv/support, wildearth.tv/support, and you can help us carry on doing this into forever. We're now going to go over to Nikki and his second leopard of the day. Being happy for him. Happy for him.
We just watched this little leopard, and as everyone said, okay, we're going to come this side, and then she just moved off. So what we're going to try and do is just slightly ease a little bit forward. I think she's just gone down in the riverbed. If that's the case, we can always loop around into the riverbed, but bear with me as we just move slightly forward. I'm hoping that she might have gone closer to Mum. Maybe let's see if she's down there. Oh, she's actually coming to say hello to us. Oh, gee, okay. I'm just going to move, or let's just quickly wait. What we're going to do is just see, everyone will probably be able to see the movement. I just want to see where she goes, and then I'll try and reposition the vehicle. I don't want to disturb her, so let's just see. There she goes. Okay, now we're going to reposition, knowing where she is. So we're going to go this way, try and see if we can see her from here. Okay, we'll stop right over here. There we go. So she's actually laying down close to where we parked the vehicle earlier. So I just want to refocus. Yeah, straight up. Barry, you had a very good question regarding when do leopards start following the mom. Now it's in all the time. So it's interesting that this leopard is just over a year old now, this young female. And the thing is, she's not even following the mother around the whole time. So normally, like, they will start following the mother from 3 months onwards. As soon as mom starts moving, they can move. But whenever mom goes and hunts, she actually hides this one away and then go and hunt and then come call this one. And it's so interesting because if you think about their behavior, it's normally at a year and a half when the mom would then push this youngster away, and that's when she needs to fend for herself. But from the few leopard encounters and mothers that I've followed during my guiding career, I've noticed that sometimes, look, see how it looks like this, if she spotted something, you see she's constantly raising her head. I wonder if that's not mom coming out of the bank. So the mom is just laying on this side of the bank. We can't see her, but I'm hoping pretty soon she'll come out. But so often what happens then is the mum will then leave the area or actually give up her territory for the youngster then to take over that area, and then she'll move on, or she might even tolerate the youngster for another few years within that area. It looks like the youngster's ears. Look at how those ears are pointing forward. You can just see the white at the top of the ears and a bit of black. And I wonder if there wasn't something moving in the grass and that caught the little leopard's attention. it's so interesting. Like one of our producers, Louise, also made a comment, and she said like she hasn't really seen a leopard with those prominent white at the end of the ears, and I would say it's very prominent. I have seen that quite a bit, but not as white as this. This is a really unique female, and for us, even as guys, this is such a amazing journey, because imagine now in 4 or 5 years' time, for even some of our viewers that eventually come and visit, imagine seeing her with her own offspring. And that's the beauty of it all, because you can see the mother and you see the offspring, and then before you know it, she might, like another year and a half, she might have offspring of her own. And just being able to follow these generations and see how they move and what their movements are and who gets pushed away and who stays. So Jenna had a good question. At what age would she then leave the mother and then like venture on her own? So if she can, she'll probably try and stay with the mum the whole time. It's actually the mum that starts pushing her away, and that normally starts happening from 1.5 years. So I would say probably within the next, for this little leopard, maybe in the next 5-6 months is when she'll probably have to start fending more and more for herself. And probably like judging by the previous litter, and also speaking to some of the older trackers that have been on the reserve, I think this female might even tolerate her for another year before she starts pushing her away to fend for herself. But you can see she's very relaxed, and I wouldn't even be amazed if this is where she's going to be. Yeah, she is a very special leopard. One of our viewers just made a good comment about how beautiful this and special this leopard is, and I do agree fully. It is a very unique animal. And what I think even for now, it does look like she is laying down. The carcass is directly behind us. It doesn't look like the mother has come up to have a feast, and I think they might have been feeding on that carcass for maybe the last few hours, and that's why they're pretty full. So we'll spend another maybe 5 or 6 minutes with her, but if she's not doing too much, I would like us to go and have a look at that male that we saw earlier and see if he might be going up into that tree to get the last little bit of the carcass. But for now, let's spend some time, because this is a really amazing place. So I think for now we are going to leave them. It just doesn't look like they're going to be doing too much from here. But while we do that, let's head across to Lauren, who's now starting out with her spotlight.
I'm not sure if I'm too early for my spotlight, but I feel when I've not got it, it's a bit too dark. So I think I'm just going to opt for the spotlight. You never know what eye shine it might pick up. Now, talking about communication again, I mentioned fish, and I just wanted to touch on that. We do get fish out here. We just don't see them because we're not diving or snorkeling. We are, of course, on land, but there's all sorts of fish. I actually completed a fish list for you all because we had some questions about what fish we get here. So I've got a list in my phone. I can't remember them all. I'm sorry. My brain's not that good. And fish communicate. Some fish communicate by rapidly changing colours. Some fish can communicate by releasing chemical signals. So, if a fish is scared and they want to let the rest of the sort of fish in the school or the shoal, depending on what they're doing, they have different meanings, they can release a stress hormone. And this is a chemical signal that will be released into the water. And of course, the other fish in the school or the shoal can pick up on this. They can taste it. It's not smell, really. It's taste with their chemoreceptors, and they will know something's wrong. One of us is stressed. Exactly the same as impalas in a herd, but of course, they're on land. They're in the ocean, so they have to release a signal that all other fish can understand. Now, some of the predators, be it shark or just a larger fish, maybe some of your pelagic fish, can actually learn that stress hormone. So many predators in the ocean will learn when a fish is stressed. They will be able to also taste that stress hormone, if you like, and they will understand that there's a group of fish nearby that are stressed and panicky. And some predators, not all, actually use that to hunt. Well, once they realize the stress hormone is leaked into the water, they will think, aha, that's what we're going to go after, panicky, stressed fish. Even here, you see when impalas start to panic, animals can, of course, panic. And when it happens, I think, in my opinion, the predator has the advantage. So that's communication in fish right there. They can't talk. They definitely can't talk, but they can communicate in so many other ways, even body language. Fish are notorious for posturing and presenting themselves in such a way that also communicates to other fish. Sometimes it's easy to forget about the ocean. I'll get Louise to repeat that first name one more time. Oh, I don't know if I can pronounce that or even say what Louise is saying. I'm sorry. It will pop up. Fish mark territory, so let's use the example of clownfish, an enemy fish, the famous Nemo fish, but don't call them Nemo fish. They don't like that. They are an enemy fish, but that's a bit of a mouthful, so they do get called clownfish. And they're very, very territorial, very territorial. So they will not let anyone come to their anemone. Now, anemones are these sort of tentacled cushion things in the ocean, and they don't move. They've got a foot, a muscular foot that they suck onto the substrate below, and they're not mobile. They actually, if they do become unstuck, they can relocate, but they're not mobile animals. They're in the same family as coral and jellyfish. It's a group called Cnidaria. So those tentacles actually sting if you touch them. I actually went into shock in the Maldives. One time I was doing a huge coral relocation project and I landed on an anemone by accident and I went into shock, but that's a different story. So they do contain stinging cells, just like jellyfish do. And somehow there's a symbiotic relationship between the clownfish and the anemone. Now, the clownfish guard their territory so ferociously. They leak chemical signals, which is exactly what I was saying about the stress hormone, but it's actually not the stress one. They leak signals onto the anemone that mark it as their own, and they also guard it so ferociously. Clownfish look very cute and funny, but they will bite you. I've been bitten by a clownfish on numerous occasions when I'm trying to photograph them underwater, and they come right up to you very fast and they bite. They've got little teeth. Now, it's not the worst bite in the world. It's not that painful from a small fish, but it does give you a fright. So they mark their territory through releasing chemicals into their little patch, their little turf. It's a very small territory. And also by being physical and being very, very aggressive. Now, the anemone fish cannot survive without the anemone, and the anemone cannot survive without the anemone fish. It works both ways. They both protect one another. The stinging tentacles have allowed a sort of evolution between the two. I will come back to this. It appears that Nikki has the most gentle animals in the bush fighting.
So we just found these two male giraffes, and you'll see the way that they maneuver. They're actually fighting each other at the moment. See how they're pushing their bums against each other? Now just wait for it. You'll see they constantly will swing their neck and try and hit each other off their feet. You might even be able to hear the impact. I'll try and be quiet. Madeline, you were asking a very good question in regards to why are these giraffes fighting. So giraffes mainly fight for mating rights, and judging by the size of these two, it's hard to see because they are pretty far off from where we are, and they are quite big bulls. And the only reason why they fight, they won't fight necessarily for territory, but it's mainly for mating rights, and that's why they're fighting. And this behavior is known as necking, where they push their bums against each other, then they'll size each other up, and they actually try and hit each other off their feet with those necks. And the impact is so hard. Like just to give you an idea, we're probably 80 meters away from them, and we can still hear, whenever they hit each other, you can still hear it onto here, and it's quite loud. It actually sounds like distant gunshots. And I do agree, a lot of the viewers have made a comment about the bigger one having more fighting experience, and it does look to me like the one on the right on the screen is definitely the bigger one, because you can see a lot taller, more stocky build, so definitely a bit more experience. You can also see like when the other one was trying to like hit him, and even look at that, it's very, very well placed shots. This one on the right has given this one on the left quite a hard shot on his chest now, and it can be very, very brutal. I have seen before where after fighting like this, the one was actually able, like, hit the other one so hard that he gesundheit, that he broke his neck. So it's definitely, can definitely be quite a impact to see whenever like one goes and manages to put a well-placed shot on the chest or on the legs. Matty in the UK, you're asking a very good question. If a giraffe would break its vertebrae, would it be able to survive? Now, from what I've seen, is probably not, because if they do go down and they do break a neck, unless it's a small fracture or something that could heal, otherwise from that, unfortunately, they don't really recover, because they do use that neck for quite a few things, other than fighting, of course, for feeding and that. But if the neck is broken, it's really hard for the giraffe to get up, so then unfortunately they don't make it. But it all depends on how bad it is broken, though. And it's so interesting to see, because I haven't seen giraffes fighting each other for quite a while. Alessandro, you were asking a very good question. How do they determine who wins the battle? So normally the one that backs off first. You'll see often they'll carry on fighting like this, and eventually the one just had enough of the beating and he'll start moving off. And so the other one then knows he's the victor. So sometimes that other one that knows he's the victor might even then chase the other one and try and hit him with the neck as they run. But so in this case, it'd be interesting to see. And this could take a while. This could even last well into the evening. Oh, just look here off to our right. As we're looking at these giraffe, there's actually 2 hyena that has just moved up closer to us. We'll try and see if I can get a spotlight on them. Watch out, won't. Right, let's try and see. How's that for evening? Just watching like a leopard on a kill, and then coming across and 2 giraffes fighting, and then 2 hyenas on their patrol. And these hyenas would have probably walked past the leopard without realizing that the kill was there. Just shows you how well the mother is hidden. So let's follow these hyenas for a little while. I think it is also getting quite dark. We won't be able to see those giraffes any further, because they are quite far off the road and we can't spotlight them because the red filter won't go that far. So while we're going to follow these hyenas, let's link across to James for an update.
We have now completed at least 7 circuits of every road in the vicinity of Tundi's den, and I'm convinced that she is not around this particular area at this moment. And so we shall move further afield now towards the west of the reserve and see what that has to offer us. Other than well, bushes, grasses, and the odd spider hitting me in the face. There are many spiders out, many pea-green spiders, pea spiders, that look unsurprisingly like peas. Shall try and find you one. Of course, by my very saying that, chances of my finding it have just plummeted to 0. There, look, David, it's a pea-green spider. Quickly, before... Oh no, it's not, it's a moth. Never mind. Superb effort, Henry. Well done. No, Louise, it was a moth. There is a bunny. Hooray! Hello, bunny. Yes. There you are. I can hear hyenas calling towards the south. We'll go around that way. There. No, that's also a moth. Ngala has been playing out of its boots of late. It's magnificent. Ooh, bush baby dove. Straight up in the middle of the spotlight there. You got him. Did you get him?
I'm sure that I did.
There. There is a little baby bush baby. Well, not a baby, it's an adult. Gone. Can we just drift slowly forward? That is the lesser bush baby. Oh, come, little bush baby. Be part of our game drive, please. Apparently Natalie in the final control is very excited because she has never seen an adult bush baby before. Natalie, have you seen a baby one? Baby ones are even cuter. Ah, not even a single bush baby. Well, Natalie, there it is. That was a little lesser bush baby. Beautiful little thing. Little primate about that big. Oh, I finally remembered there was a bump there. Now the mission for the pea spider continues. Where can I find a pea spider? Butterfly, I can tell it was an adult because it was an adult size. Basically, that's the easiest way to tell it was an adult. I don't know if it was maybe just a early developed teenager, but it was adult sized and it was on its own. So you would expect it to have been an adult. If it was a youngster, it would have been with its mummy. Jessica, you think Nachapi is a cuter name for a bush baby. For those of you who don't speak the language of Afrikaans, that means night, small ape. Small night ape. Nah, I'm going to go with bush baby. I quite like bush baby. I'm not sure that Nachapi is cuter. Certainly, Nachapi sounds a lot better than small bush ape. Small night ape, sorry. Small night ape. Of course, in most parts of the world it's called a galago. Or a galago. I prefer galago. I think it's wrong, but I still prefer it. So that would be the lesser galago. The other one that we could possibly get, here's the thick-tailed bush baby, or galago, or Nachapi. But I think you'll find that they prefer the bigger trees in the riverine areas. So you'll see them at Londolozi and Singita and Mala down on the Sand River. But not so much up here at Djuma. I never saw one at... In fact, I did. I saw one at Ngala once. I'm sorry, Louise, I missed that. Give it to me again. Sound quite interesting. Ah. Right. Louise is just saying that the first experience of the thick-tailed bush baby she had was of it screaming while she was in a tent in the Blader River Canyon. Now they make a horrific noise. They really do sound like someone's being murdered. And if you've ever heard a tree hyrax calling, it's a very similar kind of a call. It sounds like death is certainly being inflicted upon whatever is making the noise. But in actual fact, for the tree hyraxes, it's a mating call. They find it deeply attractive when they scream at each other like a horror film. The lesser galago's got a beautiful little alarm call. It's actually a really effective alarm call. It's like a little chirrup. It's chip, 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 chip. If they see a leopard, which they don't if they're anywhere near me, of course. We are now approaching twin dams on the southern boundary. Djuma, bush babies live in little family groups, and I think they forage largely alone. I remember last time I read up on their social structure, but I think it's a couple of females living with their offspring, and the males probably live on their own. They might live in the little group as well, but then they will forage quite a lot on their own, probably in audio contact with each other, so they probably know where each other are. But they do forage alone. And at this time of the year they are eating insecta, probably pea spiders when they can get them. And then in winter they transfer to eating tree gum. Normally acacia or Senegalia Right, let us go back to Nikki, who is not going to tell us a story. He is going to tell us about the Tumbuti Tom.
So we came back to where that big male leopard was, the Tumbuti Tom, to see if he might have been up in the tree with a kill, but we just found him just off the road in quite a nice open patch. You can see he's not moving too far away from the carcass, and I think what he's doing is he's just still going to stick around until he's grabbed every little bit off the carcass that he possibly can, and then from there move off. If he was finished with the carcass, he would already have moved off, but it seems to me he's just moving around this area until he can finish it off before he moves. But if you notice with him, like, I do enjoy the spot pattern. Like, if you look at his head, it starts off with these little spots. And then if you follow his arm, as well as his body down towards his bum, there's quite a few, the rosettes slowly start to increase in size. And if you look at the belly, have a look at how big those rosettes are, how big those spots are. Even look at his foot. I don't know, would you be able, like myself, if we just zoom into that foot of his, it'd be quite interesting to see the foot, because often if you do tracking, what you're trying to do is you're trying to almost visualize the foot of a leopard in your mind when you track them. And have a look at that pad. You can even see like the 4 toes and the 2 indentations on the big back pad. Oh, let me just try and refocus. There we go. You also notice with him, he has quite a big black blotch, like right next to his lower lip. Have you noticed, like around the whiskers, just behind the mouth? Very interesting. I mean, that's definitely one of the characteristics. As I've seen a few male leopards before, and I haven't seen one with that distinct black, or that prominent black blotch right over there. But he's so comfortable at the moment. You can actually see him snoring. Have a look at how his nostrils and his mouth is moving. Annabelle and Oliver from the United Kingdom, you were asking a very good question. How often do leopards need to eat? Now, in general, leopards literally only need to eat whenever they are hungry, and pretty much that will be, it depends on when they've made a kill. So you can imagine with him, this kill that he made will probably last him at least another 2 or 3 days. Afterwards, he'll try and make another kill. So you'll probably look at 3-4 day intervals between kills. But I have seen him before hunting twice in 1 day. And then he'll just store the carcass up in the tree and he'll feed off of it for the next week. So they're very opportunistic. It's really hard to pinpoint on an exact number on 2 or 3 days. But I would say whenever the opportunity arises, he'll try and take it. And that normally could take 2 or 3 days before he is successful. But then whenever he is successful, it will last him for at least close to a week. Shreyas, you were asking a really good question about how does the leopard panting affect the temperature? Well, like if I just want to give myself a minute to think about it, but normally just listen to that dove. He says, work hard as a Cape turtle dove, or the new name is a ringneck dove. But so the panting sometimes, like as soon as they pant, they lose quite a lot of heat. Wait, I'm gonna try and answer this question. Just give me a minute just to gather my thoughts in order to explain, because I have an idea, but I was just trying to find the words in order to explain it. I think panting has a lot to do with the blood circulation as well, because I mean, the more he pants, and as well as the more oxygen he gets in and moves through the blood, the more like heat he'll start losing. But also by panting, I mean, there's quite a lot of just movement of air in order to cool him down. So it does affect it. I mean, I would love to know if anyone has done a bit more research on it or exactly on how it would work. Because I think I just said a complete blank. I'm not too sure how to describe it properly. But I would like to hear from some of the viewers on what you think about it. So while we're waiting for some response and see what this leopard will be up to, let's head across to Lauren with Ribbon at the Hyena Den.
Oh, it's good to see Ribbon. I haven't seen her in a few days. Well, since yesterday morning, but that feels like a long time for my catch-up with Rib Robs. How you doing, girl? You are keeping these cubbies so well stashed away, aren't you? Now, from what we believe, the cubs were born roughly on the 27th of March. So, I think in about a week's time, and this is just my guesstimate, if you like, that we will start to see more visuals of these cubs. I really do. They'll be hitting the sort of 4-week mark, and that's when I think we'll see more of them. And then I also think we'll start to see lots of clan members come around here and interact. Hopefully, she stays at this den or she moves to one of the other dens that are really close by in this area. There's actually a collection of dens in the area that we're in right now that she can choose from. She's a matriarch after all. She can do whatever she likes. We saw her with the rest of the Djuma clan on patrol yesterday morning, Davy and I, and it was very, very, it was epic to see the Djuma clan all together again, getting ready to, well, I think they were stealing someone's kill. They could smell it. They just didn't quite know where it was coming from. Hyenas get very excited. When they smell something, when it fills their nostrils, they really, really do get excited and they react. What a day it's been. Nikki has been very, very lucky today, and I didn't get that, Louise, sorry. I was too busy talking.
Full tummy.
Nikki has been very, very lucky today with his leopard and cubbies and in giraffes. I have to say, out of all the animals, I don't enjoy seeing giraffes fighting. For such gentle, graceful animals, I find it difficult to watch them fighting, actually. But of course, there's been a fantastic drive. Elephants on this side, Khokamoya and now Rib Robs. So once again, if you do enjoy jumping on board with us and it puts a smile on your face throughout the day, please head over to our website, WildEarth.tv, and there's an option there to support us if you wish. Now, normally around this time, the sun is long gone. Pitch black. Ribbon will get up. Whether it's now, within the next sort of 20 minutes, or whether it's within the next hour, Ribbon will get up. She'll leave the den and she'll go on patrol. She'll meet up with the rest of our clanners, probably through vocalizations. She'll summon them. Hyenas recognize each other's individual calls. They have 14 different vocalizations, and each member of the clan will recognize one another. So let's just say you have 20 members in your clan, and they all have 14 different calls. Well, I'll let you do the maths. And that just proves there and then the cognitive abilities of hyenas is quite incredible. I'm just going to do a scan around with my spotlight to make sure no one else is here. Butterfly, I agree. Ribbon looks pretty burned out right now. She's probably been up to no good. Making trouble in her neighborhood, I imagine. Hyenas walk great distances at night. They're really, I know we see Ribbon always stationary here, always sleeping, trust me. Hyenas can be very active. They follow their nose, so they just walk until they pick up on a scent. Once they pick up on a scent of a kill, or even just a leopard, they follow leopards, hoping that they've got some food parcels for them. So they may walk in one direction and then get a whiff of something in their nostrils, completely change direction and follow that, then change direction again. They all respond to one another's vocalizations. So someone may be calling in the north, "Hey guys, I've got something, come and join me." And they'll all run to join the others. So they use a lot of energy. So I'm going to sit with rib robs as long as I can and just admire my matriarch. And it seems like Mr. Hendry has found a scrub here for you all.
This is a baby one. It's a baby hare. And I don't know how many of you knew this, but a baby hare is not called a harelet, a cub, a calf, a baby even. It's called a leveret. Why it is called a leveret is anyone's guess. That particular leveret is running away as fast as its little legs can carry it. It's only about it's 25 centimeters long, so it's a tiny little thing. I hope it doesn't come across an owl, which will certainly enjoy feasting on a little leveret. We are on our way back towards the clearings outside camp for a final search. We don't find anything there. Well, tomorrow is another day out here in the magnificence of the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. Djuma Private Game Reserve, where we are. And unless I find a spectacular cat possibly killing an elephant, which I don't really want to see, we will bid you good night and send you back to Ngala, where Nikki has got the Tamboti Tom.
So I've heard some interesting comments from the unknown explorer and Beatrix about how leopards would cool themselves down using panting. So apparently, as the oxygen or as air moves over the tongue, the saliva, and even in the nasal cavities, it actually cools down. And as it cools down, the blood then eventually heads down to the brain, but as well as cools down the overall temperature of the leopard. So thank you very much for that. And I'll be sure also to do some more reading about it for next time. But you can see he's pretty relaxed. And I think from here, like with his story from this afternoon, and even from yesterday, so he made this kill on the impala, hoisted up in the tree so the hyenas won't get it. But I think he might not stay here for too long. I think if he's here tomorrow morning, it would be pretty special. But I also think because he's been here for the last 2 days, he might start moving to go and patrol this territory. He'll move to all the areas, lift up his tail, scent mark against the tree, maybe even defecate in certain areas, and then just re-establish his territory, telling all the other males that this is his area. I also wonder, with that other female that had the youngster, they're not too far away from here, if he would eventually smell it and go and join up with them. If that is the case, he might chase them away. If not, hopefully that mother hides the carcass well enough so he doesn't get to it. But he is pretty relaxed, and he might even be spending here another, let's say, 3 or 4 hours before he starts moving up. Might even have a last meal on that impala, whatever is left, and then from there he'll carry on. Edward, you were asking a really good question. If leopards sleep, is it a light sleep or a deep sleep? I would say it varies. Like sometimes, like with this, you can see it's quite a deep sleep. However, he is pretty much aware of what's going on around him. I mean, we can talk like this, it doesn't affect him. You can see his ears are barely moving, his body's not moving at all. But if there was a branch breaking or any unnatural sound or sound of a potential animal moving through the grass, that would immediately wake him up. So subconsciously, even though it might be in quite a deep sleep or even a semi-deep sleep, is he still well aware of what's going on around him. So if there were some more hyenas in that area, he'll probably have been in more of a lighter sleep, constantly waking up, picking up his head. But you can see, since we've sat here and spoken about him, he's not even lifted his head. But I think what we'll do for now is, you can see he is pretty relaxed the way that he is laying down. And what we're going to be doing from here is we're going to carry on and eventually head down to the lodge. We'll see what we can find along the way as we get there. But I just want to say thank you so much for everyone for watching. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow morning. So Rowan is also going to be up tomorrow morning from the andBeyond Ngala side. And well done to James and Lauren for this afternoon. And I hope everyone will have an amazing evening. All right. All the best. And let's see everyone tomorrow.